We then start to see the bits of the cage being brought out to be constructed for the main event, which is then followed by a video hype package from Saturday night's main event, which built to the match between Hogan and Bundy. Again, Matt, we saw all of this on our review of Saturday night's main event. We then see we see Gene Okerlund is with Hogan in his private gym, and Hogan's got taped up ribs, and Bob Ponovich, the doctor from Saturday night's main event, which I can't believe returned for this show, is there with him wearing a Hulkamania shirt, no less. So the guy who was in the local hospital, which Hogan was taken to during that Saturday night's main event, has invested so much in Hogan, he's now taken time off from his full-time job at that A&E department and decided to become Hulk Hogan's full-time personal surgeon and wear a Hulk Hogan shirt whilst Hogan is working out alongside Hillbilly Jim. I just can't believe it. I mean, what a career change for old Bob Ponovich. Unbelievable. Ponovich has apparently advised Hogan not to fight at WrestleMania 2, and Hogan then demonstrates a heavy chin, which is apparently a chin-up with weights hanging from the neck. Ponovich remarks that it appears that Hogan is okay to fight.
I mean, what was this? Why are we seeing Hogan that's injured smashing out all these incredible feats of strength? Wouldn't it have been better if, like, he couldn't get out of bed, he was pissing in a jug or something? Perhaps he was on a big come down from a night out on the Tony Khan energy drinks, and he was shaking a bit. And he's like, oh God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't do it. Basically, he's just like, yeah, I thought I'm all right. Yeah, my back hurts a bit. I'm smashing this out. Look at my heavy chin. So where's the intrigue here? Hogan should have been crawling down to the ring. Like, I just don't. I thought the tone of this was completely wrong.
Tell you what might have worked, because they didn't want to show him to be completely like destitute, for example. What might have worked though is if they'd have had him kind of really acting as if he was right, and then when he did the heavy chin, he'd broken down or something, or it had gone wrong, and then when he came down to the ring looking all confident, people could still be like, yeah, but he's all right to walk, but wait until Bundy goes after his ribs, for example. That would have been perfect. But you're right, they're kind of undercutting the fact that the main jeopardy here is that Hogan's ribs are injured, and he's going up against this big old Bundy who he's probably beaten a billion times before anyway in front of most of them, because most of them would have bought tickets to see him do it. Yeah, doesn't make a lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. Matt?
I just found this quite funny. It was just very animated, just Hogan, yeah, brother, trying to do the pull-ups. It was just quite funny. And yeah, the idea of him having, of course he's going to have his own personal doctor. He's Hulk Hogan. He wants his personal doctor. He's going to have a trainer. Yeah, why not? Bring the same guy back with him. Why not?
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm not surprised he's got his own personal trainer and doctor. It's just that it's Bob Ponovich who was specifically in the A&E. Just happened to be the best guy for the job, was the guy who was in A&E during that Saturday night's main event show. It's unbelievable.
Small world.
We then see Jesse Ventura interviewing Bobby Heenan and King Kong Bundy. Heenan says that Bundy is going to be the new champion of the world. Bundy says it's been proven that anytime he and Hogan are in the ring together, Hogan ends up beaten down. He says they'll need to get the ambulances ready because Hogan will be taken for another ride. Heenan then says it's Bundy Mania from now on. So Bundy Mania trotted out again after we commented on that a lot as well during that Saturday night's main event showing. Back in New York, Vince and Susan St. James talk a bit about the main event again on their lovely little chairs. And then we get Tommy Lazzardo. I'm reading it and now I've realized my handwriting is terrible. Anyway, he's introduced as a special guest ring announcer for the main event. The timekeeper is announced as Ricky Schroeder, who gets heavily booed. This is a young man. He must be about 16, maybe. He may even be a bit younger, to be honest. And then the referee for the match is Robert Conrad, who also gets booed. I don't know who Robert Conrad is either. Any of you got any information about who they are?
I think I looked it up, but I can't find that in my notes, so I have nothing to add, I'm afraid. I think the youngster was like some sort of, he'd been in a TV show, I think. Conrad, I can't remember. It's somewhere, but I don't want to rustle the paper because it's going to hurt your eardrums, basically. So
basically, Ricky Schroeder was the Jonathan Taylor Thomas of his day.
Yes.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas being a star at WrestleMania 11.
Robert Conrad beer. He was, let's have a look. Robert Conrad, he was an actor, stuntman, best known for his role in the television series The Wild Wild West.
Cool. Well, that is who we've got for the main event, and it's Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy in a cage for the world title, or the WWE title, or whatever the hell it's called. Hogan wins after just over 10 minutes. when basically Bundy hits hits an avalanche and Hogan hulks up. He hits a slam, hits a leg drop, and then tries to escape. But Heenan and Bundy stop him briefly until Hogan swats Bundy aside and then escapes for the victory, beating Bundy to the floor as Bundy tries to escape through the cage, which was a very, very common end to these cage matches at this period of time. After the match, Heenan is chased by Hogan, and Heenan tries to escape by running into the cage like a weirdo. Hogan goes and gets his hands on him and throws him into the cage, then hits an atomic drop, and Heenan falls out of the cage door. They go back to Vince and Susan St. James back in New York City after the match, and he says goodbye. Matt, what did you think of the main event?
It was okay. I suppose, it kind of follows the typical sort of Hogan-style match at this point. It wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but again, the crowd did seem to enjoy it. The one thing that I found particularly entertaining is Lord Alfred Hayes referring to the cage as iron bars. And I can tell you now, had they called this an iron bar match, I would have been far more entertained and if I was going to buy the pay-per-view at the time, I would have been far more likely to purchase the show if I heard there was an iron bar match. That sounds awesome. So that did make me chuckle. And they kind of do look like iron bars, so that's quite right. It was basically Bundy working over Hogan's ribs. Oh, Hogan, I'm in pain, ribs hurt. Yeah, there wasn't much to it. Selling the ribs till it comes time for the comeback. I know I said it was escape the cage. I assumed that potentially could still be pinfalls in there anyway, because to be honest, I was expecting Hogan to get the pin. So I was quite surprised when he did. I say surprised. I mean, they did say you can escape, but I still thought that he'd probably get the pin. But anyway, post-match, beats up Heenan. It wasn't the most exciting thing in the world. And to be honest, most of Hogan's matches that I've seen in this sort of timescale weren't. And they pretty much just follow the same sort of pattern. So, but, the right guy won, send the people home happy. What more can you want?
Not a lot more, apparently. I mean, I do agree with you on the iron bars thing. They already had an established steel cage, which was the mesh steel cage, which you get more recently, is now what they've gone back to, although obviously it's a far more safe environment than it probably was in the 80s. So this was, I think, one of the first outings for the old blue bars, which you're right, could have been called the iron bar match. Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
I have a fact about said cage from the Wrestling Observer. They used the Calgary cage, much easier to climb than the normal cyclone fence cage used in pro wrestling, flown in specifically to allow Hulk Hogan to climb it without taxing his incredible athletic prowess. I think a little bit of sarcasm from Dave there. In fact, the crew to set up the cage was also flown in from Calgary. So the whole thing was from Stampede, except for exactly that reason. Going back to the rules, I don't think there were pins in a WWF cage match of any significance until Rude and Warrior at SummerSlam 90, which I also don't think finished with a pinfall, but there was a referee in the cage for that, I believe. Meltzer's so anti-Hulk Hogan here, and Meltzer's 26 in this, and I think it's important to note that the Wrestling Observer of the mid-80s was more of a fanzine with news than serious journalism. So he talks about this match was slow and plodding, pretty bad from what you expect from two overweight wrestlers. It's just like, Dave, come on. Hogan 86 could go. Let's not beat around the bush. This was an underrated wrestler who was oozing charisma out of every single pore in his body. And this was exactly the sort of guy that, fucking Hogan was doing, 10-minute main events, 6 nights a week, flying all over the place because the bloke in charge of their, I presume it was a bloke, perhaps I shouldn't presume, the person in charge of their travel schedule would send them to San Francisco one night, New Jersey the next night, and didn't know what they were doing. So, and he was dropping that leg every night and ruining his body. But this guy could go, and I found myself tapping my foot along to Hogan's entrance music when he came out involuntarily, because Hogan's not the nicest man in the world. But there's something magical about Hogan from this time. Bundy did the worst knot in the history of mankind trying to tie Hogan to the ropes, and he definitely can't have been in the scouts because he definitely wouldn't have got a proficiency badge for that. I didn't particularly enjoy Hogan shuddering on selling, but apart from that and him no selling and killing off the Avalanche as a special move, I thought this was pretty good and everything it needed to be. Hogan wins, crowd's happy. It didn't save the show, but this was exactly the right way to end this WrestleMania with Hogan winning.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the best things on the show, but it wasn't hard to be one of the best things on the show because there really wasn't that many good things on it. Obviously, it's the right result, but again, Matt, you're showing your naivety. You really believe that Hogan was going to pin Bundy when there's plenty of house shows they've got to cover in the next few years. So they wrestle each other about, well, according to Cage Match, and this might not be a complete listing, but they wrestled each other at least 13 times over the next year on house shows and on Saturday night's main event shows, selling this match once again on a number of occasions. They had money to make out of this match. They weren't about to squander a pinfall on a show that everyone could watch at the same time. That's just ridiculous. It was all right. But again, I think I already, like with the previous match, I'd already got to a point where I was like, I'm beyond the point of no return. We've got to get through this show. It's got to end soon. And it was fine. And Hogan is, as you said, Stephen, he was the biggest star in the world. No question, the biggest star in the world by a long way. No one was close to him, and he would go on to be even bigger over the next 3 years or so. You can't really complain about being the main event and winning the main event of WrestleMania. That's just how it goes. He's the biggest star. Simple as that.